If you believe that in order to prosper, the U.S. needs more citizens who can speak 2 languages and navigate 2 cultures, and that immersive, stimulating content in your classroom helps to promote that, then please keep listening. I'm Greg Sanchez, a Spanish teacher from Metro Atlanta, and I enjoy making things for Spanish teachers.
Picante practices.
No spaces.
At teacherspayteachers.com.
Today I'm going to show you how 3 of my products work. A GPS simulator, as well as a restaurant simulator, both set in Mexico City, and also a car simulator set in Baja California. I also have products that are set in Chile, Colombia, and España, among other places. I'm going to start off with my Mexican restaurant simulator. If you're used to giving lessons or lectures off of PowerPoint, you know how to do everything that I'm going to show you here, but you probably have not seen it quite like this. You're welcome to pause here. I like to include in all my simulators as much performance-based assessment technique as possible. So the students will always be asked in my products to speak, to get out of a dilemma or situation or scenario in an authentic cultural setting. So in this case, the student has won a trip to Mexico City for dinner with a friend, and they're going to be ordering for the 2 of them. So you can see here now that you have 3 choices of friends. We're going to pick Sean. So now, teacher, you're in charge of the mouse, and you have some tools over here that you can use, but think about what the students are looking at. They're looking at a waiter and a friend sitting across a table from them, and they're all imagining themselves having to speak. So what do they need to talk about? Well, there's a tool here for ordering drinks, para beber, one for ordering food, para ordenar, and to leave or ask for dessert, para cerrar. Let's click para beber.
¿Qué les gustaría para tomar?
Okay, so to drink, we have a menu that pops up. You can see that there are several choices of drinks here. So you as the teacher, again, have 9 buttons to press. We were working with Sean. He was our date or compañero. So we're going to decide what to drink and then click on Sean Bebidas. So on this screen you have a little bit of a different view. First of all, there's nothing on the table because you haven't ordered anything yet. He's writing down what the student is saying, and we are quote-unquote recording it. Now if you have a lab, of course you will be recording it, but I want the students to get used to the idea that they know when they're supposed to speak.
Yo quisiera horchata, por favor. Para mi amigo, un refresco de Coke.
So now your student has said what they wish to drink. Let's click on para ordenar. Let's pick this one.
¿Listo para ordenar?
Up pops the menu, and there's tons of choices here. Again, the prices are in pesos, which is a little unusual because it is culturally immersive, and if you need some help with instruction on converting pesos to dollars, I have a worksheet that can accompany this file to do that. I also am aware that these are not easy things to say for a student in an American classroom. So I have a listening activity that gives lots and lots of input for saying these several items. So now you'll notice that there are drinks at the table, and we're ready to order food.
Yo quisiera tacos al carbón, por favor. Para mi amigo, sopa de tortilla, por favor.
Okay, now that my student has ordered, there are 2 buttons here that allow you to select dessert.
¿Les gustaría algún postre?
So we can order some postre.
Yo quisiera flan casero, por favor.
You'll notice here that the plates are empty, right? We've already eaten. There's our napkin. And the last button asks for the check.
¿Listos para la cuenta?
La cuenta, por favor.
Okay, so now that the student has asked for the check, how do we get out of here in style? Again, you're not likely to have seen PowerPoint quite like this. I have rendered Mexico City, specifically the Centro region around the Zócalo, as closely as I can. And you'll recognize the taxis if you've ever been there, and maybe the architecture. But there's an arrow here for you as the teacher to start over if you're doing this in a serial fashion. And the whole process starts over. And you can select a different compañero if the student wishes. So that's the Mexican restaurant simulator. Thank you for listening to this part of the presentation. And next up is the GPS simulator for Mexico City. But wait, there's one more thing I want to show you. There is a screen right here toward the end of the presentation which allows you to give the 9 expressions of the waiter as kind of a participation exercise with the students many times. If a waiter just were to walk up to a first or second year student and say,
¿Listo para ordenar?
Listo para ordenar, the student is going to be overwhelmed. He says 9 things. Here are, say, 5 of them.
¿Están listos para ordenar? ¿Les gustaría algo de tomar? ¿Listos para la cuenta? ¿Quisieran algo de tomar? ¿Listo para ordenar? ¿Quisieran algo de tomar?
So you can see how that could come in handy. The students would have to get used to reacting to those very authentic questions, which are from a real waiter that I know here in my neighborhood. Okay, now we'll move on to the GPS simulator. And now begins phase 2, giving directions in Spanish. Something many of us do at the end of first year and certainly in second year. I really believe, after having had some amazing training in performance-based assessment, that asking students to speak their way or write their way out of a dilemma is a great tool that should culminate an experience in a chapter or a unit. And as such, all my simulators try to do that for you so that you have one way to assess at the very end that actually has them using the language rather than just practicing grammar drills or individual components of the skill. So you are, in this case, directing someone who speaks Spanish around a city that they're not familiar with, Mexico City. And I've rendered Mexico City using a map. I've taken a few liberties, but it's pretty authentic, in the area around El Paseo de la Reforma and El Castillo de Chapultepec. So let's get started. You'll notice right away that there's a big blinking red star. We're going to click on that to fire up the engine, and the father is driving the car with you in the back seat as the student, and you're about to take a ride on this road right here. I'm hoping you can hear the engine sound in the background, which in your classroom you'll be able to turn off right here. And you can see that this is a big interactive map of Mexico City that takes up the whole screen. If I put my mouse over this legend right here, you can see the items that are on the legend on the map itself. If I move off the legend, you can see the map again. So I need to show where we might go. There are 5 places. You just put your mouse over the legend on the left. These are the real names of the streets there. Kind of unusual that we'd have a Rio Mississippi in a Spanish class, but there it is. And I also love this. We have our very first street is Calle Mahatma Gandhi. That's kind of cool. So the student will then choose where they want to go. Let's say that they want to go to the the embajada here. And so they will begin by saying, turn right to get out of the museum, or doble a la derecha, depending on how you've taught it. So you as the teacher will click right here, and that turns the street green, and that carries them around to this intersection. Now remember, they're driving south, so they're going to want to take a left. So we'll say doble a la izquierda, and you click, and that carries them to the intersection with calle Leibniz. They can continue by saying siga 3 cuadradas y pase alrededor de la escultura. I provided you with some cultural background and notes on what this sculpture means, so they can call it by name if they wish. Y después siga 3 cuadradas hasta veas la embajada a la izquierda. And you as the teacher, once they've given the good set of instructions, can click on the icon. I'm hoping you can hear this from my speaker. It's just singing a patriotic song in the United States, so they know that they've arrived. And if you want to leave this pathway up, you would then, for the next student, click on return like this, and they start over. Now watch this very carefully here. You'll see that the path is already turned green. PowerPoint won't let me start over with that with a fresh asphalt covered set of roads. So in this case, I'm just going to hit escape, and then I'm going to click on slideshow from current slide, and now I'm back on that slide with all black streets. And thank you to the teacher who pointed this out to me. So now let's pick a different place that we're going to go. Let's go to the papeleria, or papelera, excuse me. I'm going to shut off the engine sound so you can hear me a little better. So here we'll turn right, tome a la derecha, or doble a la derecha, pasa a la izquierda, y por la calle Leibniz, pasa a la izquierda otra vez, y doble a la derecha por Río Lerma, y siga 2 cuadradas, tal vez 3 cuadradas, y estará a la izquierda. So I'm hoping that you could hear that. It has an office supply copy machine sound to it, and that just lets you know as the student that you've got your points or whatever for finishing that part of the simulation, and you can move on to the next student. And then if they're being a little hesitant and you want to take control of the tempo a little bit, you can honk the horn. So yeah, just keeping it light. There are other sound effects here for arriving at the restaurant. If you can hear it, there's a sizzling sound there. There's also a hotel, which sounds like an elevator. That's my second simulator, and we're going to move on now to number 3. Thanks. And for the final part of my demonstration, I'd like to show you my car simulator set in Mexicali, Baja California. You'll notice that it has 4 sets of buttons at the bottom, and there are really 4 activities that accompany this particular tool. 2 here in the instrument panel, panel de instrumentos, and then we also have 2 map-based activities, again set in Mexicali. So let's take a look at the panel de instrumentos. So again, you can hear the music, I hope, that's in the background. This is meant to let the students know that this is sort of a beginning or splash screen, and that they have to choose what to do from here. And you can control that, again, from this little icon. So the 2 types of activities that are here are that there are lots of places that you can click on this instrument panel that will allow you to hear sound effects. And in order for you to click on those, one would ask the students to give you some output from them to follow their instructions. So, for example, if they said, tengo frío, you could click on the heater. Again, I'm hoping you can hear the heater sound that's in the background. If they said, enciende el carro, or pon el carro en marcha, or pongo el carro en marcha, you could click on the ignition button, and it fires up the engine. If they say, está lloviendo, you can turn on the windshield wipers, and you get the idea. So there are about 14 or so buttons on this general splash screen or dashboard that they can click on, or you can click on, following their lead in giving you output from their level of knowledge. And we also have about 15 different scenarios. I, again, enjoy giving scenarios that they have to talk their way out of. So let's take a look at a couple of these. For example, in this case, we have some splashing water. Let's see what that's about. So what is the dilemma? What is the problem? Well, there's cars driving by and your window's down and the water's splashing into the car. So the student would then need to say, cierra la ventana, or cierre la ventana, whichever one you've taught them. And then you, the teacher, can click on the window control button, and it closes the window. The window's closed, can't hear the splashing anymore. And there's a rag here that you can click on, and they can say, seque el carro, or limpia el carro, whatever it is that you're teaching. So you click on that, and the rag goes around and wipes up the mess. So again, always based on some real context, some real scenario where they need to speak. I want to show you a little bit about how immersive this is in the culture of Mexico. So let's take a look at the gas pump here. So hopefully you can see that on this dashboard the light is blinking to suggest there's no fuel in the car or a lack of fuel. So we're going to wait for instructions to turn into this Pemex. So the student might say, doble a la izquierda. So we'll click on the blinker. And there's a blinking sound. And a star pops up letting the teacher know, hey, click me to get into the gas station. So we're going to turn left into the gas station now. Please notice that this background looks very much like Mexicali. I've used Mexicali images to render what you see here. And of course you recognize Pemex if you've ever been to Mexico. So we pull into the gas station. So now you need to get out of the car. So you can say salga del carro, or sal del carro, y llene el tanque. So I'm hoping you could hear the gas being pumped, and then we start back over. So again, there are about 15 of those. You can count them. Fasten your safety belt, change the radio station because grandma doesn't like the song, turn on your windshield wipers, speed up because someone's tailgating you, on and on and on. Okay, so let's take a look at the other types of activities that are on this simulator. In this case, we have two types of maps, and they're scaffolded. This one should come before this one for almost all of you. Let's take a look. So you'll notice that there are 3 chunks of Mexicali rendered as maps, and there are 3 drivers driving over and over and over again to their destinations. So I'll give you a second to look at that. they're driving not only to a destination, but they're driving through various kinds of stimulus for your student. For example, this driver is driving through the heat of the sun, which is very common in northern Mexico. This driver is driving through fog, so you'll be able to give the students input on that. And this driver is driving through not only rain, but nightfall. So what can you say about those two types of things to create usable vocabulary in the minds of your students? So I've given you a ton of notes on how to use these tools. Let's take a look at slide 70. You can see that I've given you lots of true, false, and multiple choice type input for you to get your students used to reading and looking at these maps. So let's go back to the map now. Let's take a look. La destinación de conductor B tiene elefantes. Okay, that's a true-false question. Let's see why that would be cierto or true. La destinación del conductor B tiene elefantes. Okay, so aquí está conductor B. Está manejando por dónde? Well, it's going to this location. What is that location? I said a circus show de terror, which we would think would have elephants. That's a real place in Mexicali, by the way, and I've given you some background information on what that is and places that you can go to find out more. So this really is an activity that will take your students beyond the activity. They can go and look up these places per your instruction. So let's look at one more on slide 70. And for example, we can see in this ABC multiple choice section, prendió sus luces. Okay, who turned on their lights? Okay, well, we can see that conductor B had to turn on his lights because he or she passed through some fog, and then conductor C as well turned on lights because not only did they go through rain, but it became night. So again, scaffolding is important in a foreign language environment. You have to give them lots and lots of chances to hear it first before you can ask them to produce it, and that's what this activity is for. Finally, the third activity is kind of like my GPS simulator in that it's an interactive map. This is a little more advanced, though, than the GPS simulator in that there are also obstacles or stimuli along the way. So let's take a look at one path. Let's say that you want to go eat some Chinese food in La Chinesca, and all navigation starts from the airport. You've landed at the airport in eastern Mexicali, and you get in your car and you start going west. So you click on this first arrow to go west, and it repeats a few times because I want the students to be able to see that they're going through the heat of the sun. So they would need to say to you, after saying go west, say, hey, prende or prenda el aire acondicionado. You click on that, and you can hear the air conditioner come on. And then por el Boulevard Lázaro Cárdenas, doble a la derecha. So they turn right until they get to La Carretera 5, and then doble a la derecha, and they arrive at La Chinesca. Now, all of the destinations have a sound effect, much like my GPS simulator, so you can reinforce their success by clicking on that. You'll notice that that pathway is now unavailable to the student. It doesn't reappear. So I'm going to hit escape. Select from current slide in slideshow mode, and I get to start over. So the next student can then turn left at Lázaro Cárdenas and go through fog to get to the circus, or they can go through rain to get to Tijuana, whatever. But again, you can click on these icons and you can hear the destination represented in sound to let them know that they've been successful. If the student is horsing around or not being successful and you want to gently prompt them, you can give them the buzzer sound to let them know that they're off task somehow. So thank you very much for listening to these 3 demos. I'm Greg Sanchez at Picante Practices, and appreciate you taking a look at my products. Buen día.